Hello everyone and welcome back to Angie B Cards and Crafts. Now what I thought I'd do today is just a really quick video I thought I'd pop up because I've been doing a little bit of experimenting. So until recently I've always used isopropyl or alcohol basically. This one's 99.9% alcohol and that's what I've used as my blender when it comes to using alcohol inks. And that's been absolutely fine. And I've been watching quite a few of Tim Holtz videos about the benefits of using his blending solution. So I purchased a bottle of blending solution. And I thought I would show you the difference between the two. So I'm going to show you, I've done one lot already, but I'll show you how it works as well. So these green ones I've done by putting the alcohol and the blending solution on the paper first, and then add the ink, and the purple ones are adding the ink and then the solution. Now I'm doing this on the back of some photo papers because I'm just using it as an example. I'm not going to actually be using these in a piece. I'm going to be using them just as an example for you. So unfortunately it does have Epsom written on it, but it works really well to show how things, and I've done a lot of swatches on these as well because it actually reacts very similarly to Yupo. When I'm doing a piece of work that I'm going to be making into either a piece of art or a card, then I will use Yupo paper. So that's why I'm using this paper. I'm not using the glossy side. You would assume that you use the glossy side, but if you do that it doesn't work, and I will show you that just to demonstrate. We shall use the purple, which is from Ranger, and it's the boysenberry. So that's just the ink, and then you start to spread it and it just doesn't seem to do what you want it to do. This isn't the main thing, this is just to show you the effect. So you can see on the glossy what is happening is, yes, you're getting some spread of colour, but the main blob of ink isn't moving. So you're not getting that blending that you get when you use appropriate paper. So what I would say to you is, if you have any papers and you want to try alcohol inks on them, get some spare bits and give it a go, because you'll find that they respond differently on different papers. The one that I like the best is the Yupo. The disadvantage of the Yupo is that if you put heat on it, it tends to pucker up and wrinkle and shrink because it is a plastic rather than an actual paper. So that's why I'm not using the glossy side, because it doesn't work on the glossy side. Right, so I've got a few bits of paper here. So I've got one each of here, and the first thing I'm going to do is pop the solution on. So I'll start with the just ordinary alcohol. As I say, this is isopropyl. This is a bottle I've had for ages. You can see it's getting near the bottom, but it does last a long time and it's a lot cheaper than this. I've just paid £8.99 for this. So that's one thing to consider. So I'm just squirting a little bit of fluid on there, and then I'm going to add, we'll use the purple again, I'm liking this purple. So just 2 drops, 1, 2. And then pop the lid on, and then you can see there's quite a lot of movement there, and then you start to blow it and it moves really freely. As it spreads out you get a fading. Fading isn't the right colour, because it's like if you add a clear fluid to something with an intense colour, it's going to dilute it. So effectively you're just diluting it, but there's lots and lots of movement. There wasn't an awful lot of the alcohol on here, but we're getting loads of movement, and we're getting the different colours. So you start to see the different colours that the ink is made up of, and that's one of the things that I love about when you actually separate it out. And you can also go back in and add little bits. If I just put a single drop on there, I now have the ability to move that ink a little bit more, and it rubs out the lines. So unlike this one where the line stayed, when you put the alcohol on, it rubs out the lines. Okay, so that's using the alcohol. So now I shall do something similar with the blending solution. So we'll start off, we'll pop the blender. It's got a similar nozzle. It's kind of, the nozzle on this is a big version of the nozzle you get on the alcohol inks. So just put a squirt down. It's about the same amount. And add in 2 drops. 1, 2. So initially it looks very similar. You can see that there's some movement. These are splatters, so we'll not worry about them because that's just me being messy. And it starts to move out. So it's great. It feels the same. One of the things that Tim has said on his videos, Tim Holtz, is that you don't get the same level of fading. And looking at this, no, you probably don't, but nor do you get the same amount of movement, because I put a similar amount on and it dries much quicker than the alcohol. So that's similar amounts of alcohol and blending solution, 2 drops of ink, and I prefer, I think, the outcome on this. The other thing is that with the alcohol it disappears, so you don't get any edges of alcohol, of just alcohol. So on here, all the edges, there's colour, and there's the edging of the colour because we're effectively pushing the ink, the pigment of the ink to the edges. That's what we're doing when we're blowing the ink around. So that's fine, but there's no extra edges of alcohol. But if we look at this, and I'm hoping you can see it, there's kind of a shiny edge here, and that's where the blending solution with no colour is. And it's also a little bit sticky. It feels, it's not sticky, it's just like a layer that just stays there, that feels a bit waxy, I suppose, more than anything. So personally, I'm not that keen on the blending solution. So that's using the blending solution first. So I prefer using the isopropyl for that. This is just personal to me, so please do your own experimentation. So now what we're going to do is put the ink on the cards first. So let's get 2 more cards. Oh, what colours should we have? Let's go for cobalt, a nice blue. So again, I'm just going to do 2 drops, 1, 2, and then add, that's 5 drops of alcohol ink. Now these needle nose bottles are really good because you can be very specific as to where you're going to put the ink, where you're going to put the alcohol, sorry, so you can put it onto your ink very specifically. So if you want it in a particular area, it's quite simple to do that. So if I'll not do it now, but what I'll do in a minute is add on to it. So that moved reasonably well. It doesn't move as well as when you've got a layer of alcohol and then you add the ink. It's almost like when you do it that way around, there's a skating rink for the alcohol ink to sit on, and then it moves along until the skating rink melts. That's just one analogy. So 2 drops of alcohol ink, and then we want, if we can, about 5 drops of this. 3, 4, 5. There we go. So you can see there is movement, which we would expect. It is a blending solution. We can push it out. It is alleviating any of the lines, so you're not getting a line as it crosses. It's moving all of the ink. So using it this way, they're probably comparable actually. And there isn't that edge. In fact, you can probably see the edge more on that one than you can on that one. So using it onto the ink rather than underneath the ink, the blending solution seems to be the better option. But using it underneath the ink to get a good spread of colour, then the alcohol, the isopropyl, is the better option. So what I'm going to do here is, because we have got, on here we've lost the rim that we have here. hoping you can see that. So there's a little bit of a circle round here, and that kind of makes it look like it's an afterthought to put it in. So what I'm going to do is use some of the alcohol now, just move that one out of the way, and just dot onto that and see what happens. Okay, so as I said, this isn't on Yupo, so you will get a different reaction on Yupo. I'm leaving it for a second before I actually do the blowing, because if you don't, you won't pick up any ink, it'll just slide off. So you need to give it a chance to mix with the ink. So what you're seeing here on this paper is the fact that you're getting the ring, and it's not really moving that tide line, I suppose you'd call it, whereas when you blend with the blending solution, that tide line disappears. Let's see what happens if we add now onto this again. So that seems to pick up the colour much quicker. But you are then getting the same sort of tide line here, but it's moving more freely. So I think what I would conclude is that if you're going to use the alcohol as a base, or the solution as a base for your work, so that you've got an initial amount of movement of your ink when you put it down, then I would put the isopropyl on. If you're going to use the alcohol or the blending solution to move the inks on top of one another, or once they've dried, then the blending solution on this paper, and this is just on this paper, I can't guarantee how it's going to be on other papers, but on this paper the blending solution provides the better solution. And then what you also see is you get, this is with the isopropyl, the alcohol, you're actually getting a circle where you put the ink down. I'm going to try and remove that just by going in again and see if we can make a difference. I think what we're going to do is just effectively water this down again and again. Yeah, I think what's happening is we're just diluting it more and more. So I would say blending solution if you're putting the ink down first, and alcohol if you're putting the solution down first to give that initial bit of mobility of the ink. So those two are the blending solution, and those two are, no, I lied. Those two are the alcohol, those two are the blending solution. So the other thing is, that feels fine now. They feel the same. Oops. But that initial edge from putting the blending solution down first is still there. So yeah, that would be my recommendation. If you're putting the solution down first, use alcohol. If you're putting the solution on top of the ink, then blending solution. I hope you found that useful. Please click like, subscribe, click the little bell, get the notifications, and pop over to me on Facebook at Angie B Cards and Crafts. Thanks very much for watching. See you again. Bye.